Welcome to Josh and Aaron Talk About Stuff. I'm Josh with my buddy
Aaron.
Aaron.
Didn't
All
say
right.
it.
I was going to say your name for you, sir. Mr.
That's still
Aaron.
me.
You're still you. All right. Today we're going to be talking about education.
Ooh,
Public education, maybe it's private, but
yeah.
the time they're babies to through college, we're going to talk about the whole thing. All right. And, you know,
It's a broad topic.
it is, but we're both educators. But you know what? You can love your job, but also have some thoughts about what could improve it.
Absolutely.
You don't
There's
like,
nothing wrong with that.
but I think a lot of people have a problem with that. Like, well, if you don't like your job, then why don't you get a new one or blah blah blah. Like,
Yeah, right.
that's not no.
That's not how it
That's not
works.
how it works. Like,
That's not how it
you
works.
love your job, but there's also things about your job that you don't like.
It's okay to be honest about it. It's like, okay, this is what's broken.
I think.
Um,
Well, I've talked about it before. This socialization is so strong in people. They just like they don't. People do not like to think critically about stuff.
So what works in our current education system?
Um, this might sound trivial, but most kids are off the street for a good chunk of the day.
That doesn't
If you
make
think
trivial at
about
all.
the origins of education, it was for the elite,
Mhm.
and if you could afford it.
Yeah.
A lot and people like it's really humans in general, but I'm just going to talk about Americans because I can talk about Americans, right? Are very ignorant of their own history
Right.
and the history of the institutions. Like kids are running around at 12 years old working at a freaking cotton mill, getting their limbs cut off, working 16-hour days for 2 pennies, like.
Yeah.
And at one point in America, they decided, maybe we need to do something different.
Maybe we should have school.
And like maybe educating everybody is probably a better thing for everybody.
And
right?
and I think, and you hit upon it right there. And I think that is it's important. I mean, I think that anybody who does it's important. The idea of the public school, the fact that in our country we tell every kid that you're going to go to school until you're at least 16, and that's when you can legally stop if you want to. I think it's essential. I mean,
probably part of that promote the general welfare bit.
Promoting the general welfare. Let's make sure
Constitution, the education, but
but still, let's make sure we've got people. That we're educating our populace. I mean, that's important, and the fact that we still do that, I think, is important and essential. I mean,
well, also sorry, folks, it's a socialist institution. Everybody chips into the pot, and the state runs the output. They get to decide, right?
Yeah. So what can we do different?
Well, I think there's all right, so the United States is very peculiar and different in its governmental structure versus the rest of the world. We're basically 50 countries at this point
under an umbrella of
a overarching, corporation or entity but that federal level is there's no level higher, and it gets to decide among these 50 states, these 50 countries. You can't do A, B, C, and D. The rest of it will lead to you. So the education is left up to each individual state. I think there should be more of a national, right? But I think there should be a national standard as far as science for sure should be national in every state, because within each state in certain grades, 8th grade in North Carolina, you learn about North Carolina history.
Right.
You need to learn about North Carolina history if you're living in Iowa, other than the first attempts of colonization. I think that's fine.
The broader scope of the picture where North Carolina is a part of it.
Right. But science and math, I just think be national standards, because
and language
No,
arts.
like people like, well, even people like even in your own district. Well, that might not work for our population if we teach this way. Well, no, math is math, man. And science is science. Doesn't matter what state you're in.
That's one of my favorite lines from The Incredibles. That's one of my favorite movies. The Incredibles The Incredibles Part 2, and it's like Mr. Incredible is teaching his son
I haven't
math,
seen that one, by the
he's
way.
like, huh?
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh man,
I
he's
want
teaching
to.
his kid math, and he's like, "What is this? Oh, it's new math, Dad. New math. Math is math. You can't
Yes.
change math.
Math is math, man. So like, I think there should be national standards.
Yeah, right.
in all the
Exactly. Math
states.
is math.
Math, because like 2 times 2 is 4.
Always 4. Always.
I think
there are just certain things that we need to, yeah. But then I think the thing of it is we reach a point though where we need to start. I think there is a point though where our education system, it wouldn't hurt for us to step back and assess like what we're teaching and why we're teaching it. You know what I mean? There are certain things we've always done, and it's just like maybe I can't figure it. Never mind.
Well, I mean, like, so we have societal things that we must pretty much all agree on. The golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated.
Right.
So, like, you've seen the essential standards in the Standard Core Society of North Carolina. I'm sure Oregon has something similar, but like, civics, I think, should also be a nationally
which has actually been
standardized
in Oregon. They're actually going to make it a graduation requirement. Now you
learning
have to
about
civics.
your local government and your role as a human in society.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though I didn't press a button and I was born. I didn't get to choose it. Some things just are, and so you have to be a part of the society, right?
Right.
And then if you want to change it, help change it. But like civics and social studies, and I'm not talking about history as far as like.
No, you're talking like government and understanding your role in the society that you live in. Yeah,
how it can work for you. Like,
I mean, people should understand their government. If you don't understand how your government works, how can you be an educated member of how can you make educated decisions when it's time to vote, Because and I think that's why Oregon has now they have set up the fact that they're going to make it a graduation requirement that all students have to have a civics class. They need to understand the basics. I mean, look, I don't understand the ins and outs and the particulars of government. Okay,
that's because it's become a bureaucratic nightmare. But there are basics.
But I understand the basics.
Yeah,
and I think that's an important thing is understanding the basics.
As far as go ahead, continue, sir.
No, go ahead, man.
Well, as far as like history goes, obviously each state learn your own individual history, but there are things that every state should teach. And the one thing that I would really change about education is like stuff that is like got white people all up in arms. Is like we've whitewashed history, and we've made it. We've been teaching it in the way that makes white people look good and kind of wipe their hands, because just because something that happened 60 years ago or 100 years ago doesn't mean that we still don't have the repercussions of it.
Right.
And like the critical race theory thing is like scaring the hell out of people. Like we can't be racist, blah blah blah. Like, but if you read a freaking history book and it's like, man, these slaves had it good, that's where you're like, give me a break, people. Like, give me a freaking break. Anyway. So I think there should be some national standard. I think the federal government is even like the Constitution might have to be amended for that because education is left up to the states. But I also think I think someone was telling me, or like they compared it to American education is a mile wide and an inch deep. We don't really go into and really learn things. While as in other countries, it's an inch wide and a mile deep. Like you really,
right. And that's the thing of it that's kind of actually it's interesting you should say that, because that's actually where I was that was what I was getting ready to say. I think what we need to do is start borrowing maybe from some European and Asian cultures, where there's also this notion that you reach a certain point, it's like, okay, we've given you the basics, and then we actually go, okay, now what path is going to be best for you? Even before kids are at college, even in the high school, they begin to say, okay, what path is going to be the most beneficial for you in terms of your learning? And because there is something about, we do kind of present this broad swath of learning in our country, and sometimes I think it's like, well, maybe we should maybe not be as broad, and maybe be a little more narrow.
Well, yeah, like, so I think like K through 5 or K through 6 should be your learn the basics.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think like in some countries you get to a point where, all right, you've had 8 years of your education. Now you're going to have to like pick your path.
Right.
Like you said, but like, I think someone told me, something to do with Japan, where like you get up to 8th grade and then you can like, do you take a test? Do you get to go to high school, or you're eligible for these jobs?
Well, I think it's like that
kind of thing, right?
It like modifies your training path.
Right.
And
because here's the thing, like, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you.
You're fine.
In America, it's turned into, you gotta go to college.
Right.
Right? But you know what? If everybody goes to college, nobody's going to be a mechanic. I don't, I'm over simplifying it.
But what you're saying is that college isn't the path for everyone, and it's really not. And a lot of what our education system does, I think, is kind of start to guide people towards this. Oh, you're going to go to college, but college isn't for everyone. There are other paths for people.
Right. Like, trade schools are well-paying jobs.
Absolutely.
And we need them. We need.
Absolutely.
Like, I think engineers should probably go to college a little bit, but like
the guy who fixed my sink this week,
right?
Let me tell you,
made some money. But did work. He also worked.
But he did work that I couldn't do. Right. And not because I don't want to, because I couldn't do it. I mean, I have no idea.
And so we need that. And if we lose that, we're going to be in a hell of a situation. Right. But we also need to stop asking kids even in middle school, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? I don't know. Like
Quinn is in 10th grade this year. It's like, Quinn, he's like, but then he was like, Dad, I just, some people like already know what they want to do with their lives. I just don't know what I want to do. I'm like, Quinn, you're in 10th grade, man.
Right. And even like when you're a senior in high school, maybe
your brother doesn't know what he wants to do when he's 20.
You're telling me you want a 17-year-old to know what they want to do for the rest of their life? Are you kidding me? Like, and then like the whole, all right, so let's transition to college. So like really quick. So like, I think education should be is a right. I've gone back and forth because there's a lot of like, maybe it should be a privilege because a lot of time it gets abused, but it's not necessarily the kid's fault. It's not necessarily, most of the time it's not the kid's fault because a lot of kids' behavior is learned. And that's a whole nother thing we could talk about is that, but like, education's a right, but it can't just be, well, you can just coast through K through 12. There's got to be accountability because money's involved. People are paying for everybody's education.
Absolutely.
There's got to be some type of return on investment, which that's where that civics piece comes in.
Right.
Like,
you're going to become an educated member of society.
Right. You're not just gonna like coast through and get D's the whole way, which, you can't legislate a kid can't get D's, but like, I also do think like sports, let's just shift to college because what I'm going to say about college is going to kind of apply to high school too. But I think education is a right. Everyone deserves one and they deserve the best one. But you kind of, it's kind of like one of those, if you go to Annapolis, the military naval academy, every year that you spend there, you owe 2 in the military. It's that kind of thing. Like, I don't think you got to get some return on your investment because it is everybody paying money for it, for everybody to have this free education. So anyway, I've said enough. What do you think? Last thought on K through 12.
You know what? Thank goodness we have it. We need it. Is it perfect? No. But is it definitely an essential institution in our society? It is. and I wish people would appreciate just how essential it is.
Yep.
Whether it's online, which is a powerful tool, or in person, which is a powerful tool.
Yep.
It's we do this, we have this in our society because we need this in our society, and college is just as important. So maybe it's not the same path for everybody. I've often thought maybe that's what we need to assess, because everybody learns differently. Just like everybody learns differently, everybody learns different things.
Right, but also I think like with college, like my dad worked in concrete his whole life and was super, super, super experienced.
Right.
And he had this feeling, and it could have been true, but like if he didn't have a college education, he wasn't looked upon or respected as much as some 25-year-old kid with a college degree. And I'm thinking experience is worth, you know what? College was great, but I feel like with some experience, I could have been just as good of a teacher as I am now without my master's degree. Because let me tell you what, learning about education in college does not prepare you for the real world application of being
when you're sitting there and they're like,
sorry. All right, so universities serve a purpose. I think people are getting priced out of college because 50 years ago, a kid could work over summer and a little bit during the year and pay for his entire education. Now you have to take out mortgages and student loans, but we'll talk about more of that in the next episode. But just college in general, like, does well for educating you, but it's not very good at practical application unless you're in a certain field. Like the general studies and the liberal arts stuff. Your first couple of years, let's face it, you're getting those basic general things. Which I've often wondered why it is they feel the need to do that. It's like almost like feel like college should be like one of those things where you go in and you should go in like, and it's your entire time there should be learning what it is that you're going to learn. It's like you got the basics. That's what high school was for. College should be just like, let's just blast you now with the things that you want to learn. Right. Specifically for your chosen path, whatever that, and let's make it deep because you're there now. Be there for 2, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. You're gonna just learn the heck out of this particular subject. You're learning the history of China. You're gonna go deep into it, not just general.
Exactly.
But I don't like that tuition and stuff and room and board has skyrocketed so much that, and I just don't think that's the purpose of, because it's unless you're like a state school, the cost is ridiculous.
Not even in the state schools anymore. It's ridiculous. We really are like pricing. You just pricing kids out. It does kind of start. It has started to feel that
like
way.
If that's the focus, right? Of gotta go to college. Well, then make it affordable. Like that's the thing. Like don't push people to go to college. And then he goes like, man, I got it in this really good school, but I can't afford it.
Right.
Like, oh well,
no way. There's no way I can go there though.
Right. Well, if you sign on this dotted line, student loans. We'll talk about later. I don't want to get ahead of myself. All right, so. The one thing that has just for the last 10, 15 years bugged me to no end with, I think sports, NCAA, I think sports should be separate from university. That's just how I feel about it.
I got you.
Even though they're like, they bring in so much money, but who gets the money? Yeah. Is it bringing the tuition costs down for kids? No.
Right.
And we have talked about paying college athletes. I saw something like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and somebody were talking about. Oh, Van Jones and CNN were talking about. Van Jones, I think, side was don't pay college athletes. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said yes. And I'm like, you know what, fine. If you're going to pay or not pay college athletes, it's one thing. But coaches that make more than $60,000 a year, or let's say just cap it at $100,000, should not be a thing anymore. Because you know what? On the academic side, teachers don't get to make millions of dollars.
Right.
Like the coaches do. And that's their only job.
Right.
I don't understand, like, See, that's what the sports people like priorities, man. Like
Yeah.
going to college is for one thing, to learn, to get an education. That's it. And you provide and they like the way college campuses are now are insane. Like they have like theme parks and lazy rivers.
Oh, it's crazy.
Like, what are you going there for?
Right.
Like, I don't understand. Like, you need
Yeah.
like coffee houses but like, I mean, yes, you need a student center and a library and dorms. That's it. You don't need all this grandeur to like, because I guess it's very competitive and they gotta get people to come there. Like if you're, I don't know. So I've been rambling too much, but go ahead. My mom likes to leave comments, which bless her heart, I love it. She'll say, "You need to let Aaron talk more." You need to let Aaron talk more. And I'm like, okay, but I can't help myself. I just get all going, but
right.
Not the force, sir.
No, I don't even know what to say at this point.
Well, what do you think could it like? What could it be improvement on universities and college?
On universities, I think our university system is actually like I think our university system is very good in this country. I think we offer I really do think we offer a lot to young people in the secondary part of their education. I just think that at this point it's the sheer cost of university has just become so exorbitant. And I guess I'm kind of holding back that thought because I know we're going to talk about that, I think, next time. So, because that's become really the crux of my issue with university. I mean, like, I get what you're saying about sports. I like college sports, but I do get what you're saying. Like the focus of the university feels like it's shifted to the athletics so often anymore, away from what the true function of the university is supposed to be.
Well, here's my thing,
which is education, and it does feel like we've pulled the focus away from that. And that's definitely true. I mean, gosh, I can look at the campus that U of O, where sports is slowly taken over the campus. And here's the thing: sports is a powerful part of life, and it means a lot to a lot of these young people that participate in it. And as they often like to point out, most of these young athletes at the college level will continue with their life not in an athletic pursuit. Most of them will go on to do something else. Very few will be professional athletes. And so I think it's a kind of a powerful part of the college experience. But at the same time, I think that it sometimes the real crux, the real essential part of the university does get lost behind the athletics, which is the fact that really it is a learning institution, and that's what it's supposed to be. I think we do a really great job of that in our country. I just think that at this point, I don't understand why why the cost of higher education has become what it has.
Right. Last thing I'll say is non-athletes and athletes should go to college or university, whatever, for an education. The sports is just something extra you do because you like doing it.
Right.
I think if you accept a scholarship in any sport, you stay the duration till you graduate. This one and done crap.
Yeah.
And for basketball and college it's
basketball's the worst.
It's wasteful. At least in football they make you stay 3 years.
Yeah.
But because I feel like, I don't know, like I feel like if you were scientifically comparing, like, I think it's harder to get an academic scholarship than it is a athletic scholarship. That's just my opinion.
No, I bet you're right.
And so like to go to college on an athletic scholarship for basketball and then just like peacing out, because I think, and also the same standard should apply for all sports. Maybe treat all sports equally, because you know what? Softball girls put a hell of a lot of effort into going to school and kicking butt on a softball field, and they don't have an opportunity to quit their scholarship after the first year and go play professional softball.
Right? That doesn't exist.
Didn't exist. All right, that's enough about that, because I'm starting to get on my soapbox here. But because I don't want to start railing against athletes. I know that like athletes that get scholarships deserve it, but like it's student athlete. Well, and that's why I think like maybe there needs to be a separate entity that the NBA pulls from, or pump up the summer leagues or the D leagues. Like that's where you go if you want to go like play NBA, not pick from university. All right.
Yeah, not take money from the university to go play 1 year. And the NBA needs to kind of the NBA almost has gotten to the point where they need to develop something like the minor leagues, is what you're saying. And I think you're right, which is kind of a little off topic, but I mean, but not entirely.
So the last thing real quick, we're over time, but it's okay. Private schools and charter schools versus the public education. How do you feel about that?
It does serve a purpose.
Well, I mean, yeah, it does.
It serves a purpose. I think if here's the thing about private schools. I mean, they're in the news oftentimes because of one thing or the other, and if you want a specific type of education for your kid and you can afford to send them somewhere, I guess send them. Nice thing about a charter school is it offers up like cool programs and opportunities for kids, and in a kind of in a not quite private but not quite traditional setting. I think they're kind of cool.
But like a charter school is basically a public school that's allowed to admit kids on a private scale, right?
I mean,
you have
not
to
necessarily
apply
on a private scale. Like you have to apply, but anybody can apply.
Aren't standards different as far as like staying enrolled? Like you can get kicked out of a charter school for whatever reason, and then you get shuffled back into public. But like,
well, I mean, I don't think so, because I think charter schools are attached to the public schools, so that I think it becomes a little bit. They're really, I mean, like we have one in Bend called Realms, which is a charter school for middle schoolers, and anybody can apply to go. And then it's just like, and most of the times with charter schools, it tends to be like a lottery type thing that they just boom, 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 and if you get selected, you get to go.
But like for a charter school, though, you don't have any extra out of pocket. But I think there's some strings attached to a charter school.
I mean,
you can't just go there and flunk out. Like,
no. I mean, there are strings that tend to be attached to the schools, but those tend to be based exclusively upon
like discipline. Schools. I don't think you can go to charter school and be a bully and fight all the time and get to stay. Which I guess that's the last. But okay, I think all schools should have state standards they have to follow, because some private schools get to have their own standards. It's not very fair. Like, so what do you say? So education is different, like,
yeah, that's true.
I think no discipline in schools is like, I think the biggest issue, because really there should be no discipline issues in a school at all, because it's a service provided to you to better you as a human being to live in society. Right. So I think there should be some accountability that the state should put on parents, academically and discipline-wise.
Sure.
Like, all kids can learn. And it's not necessarily that a kid that gets D's all the time is because they can't learn.
Right.
I don't think that's the case. But anyway, I had a last thought. I don't remember. I mean, to all my religious folks out there, I think you should have to follow state standards too. Sorry. You're a school.
If it's a school, it should follow standards.
Right. But like a lot of this stuff, yeah, anyway, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I think if you're providing an education to somebody in America, it should have to follow certain guidelines and not have religious exemption stuff. Like, there should be basics that are followed. Because like the school down the road for me, I don't know if they have in the EOGs. I just don't know. Anyway.
Right.
But and that, I mean, and last thought, standardized tests. if the emphasis on teaching kids 30 different ways and blah blah blah, then how are you going to give them a standardized test? Standardized tests are honestly, there are if you really want to get into it, they're a relic of racism to prevent people from getting into school.
Yeah, probably.
Originally, and then it's turned into
this sort of blanket thing that we do.
Like SATs, like the SATs, it's the most ridiculous you don't need the SAT at all. Anyway, so there's a lot of good with schools. There's a lot of stuff in there that the bureaucracy is thrown in there because bureaucracy can't help itself.
We must put things in. We are the bureaucracy.
Yeah, like it's just stupid. Anyway, so all right, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Next time we're going to be talking about something near and dear to Aaron's heart: student loan debt.
Oh God, I got a bunch of them, and my poor kid.
And all the people out there. Anyway, we'll talk about that next week.
Okay.
So hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, share it around, and we'll see you later.
Talk to you later.